Welcome to Block 5 of our Celebrating the States Block of the Month, the Louisiana block. This block takes 3 fabrics, a dark, a medium, and a background. From the background fabric, cut 4 rectangles that measure 3.5 by 6.5. From the dark fabric, I'm using blue, cut a square that measures 7.25 inches by 7.25 inches. You will bisect that square twice, corner to corner, to get 4 triangles. I'm using a red for my medium fabric. From this fabric, you need to cut 4 squares that are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. You will bisect each of these squares once, corner to corner, to get 8 triangles. Once everything's cut, it's time to head over to the sewing machine, and you're going to use 1/4-inch seam allowances. You want to put a medium triangle on a dark triangle and line up the sides and the bottom, and don't worry about the point that's hanging off at the top. Be careful with these pieces as you send them through the machine. These are bias edges, so you don't want to stretch them. You want the machine to kind of feed them through all on its own. Bias edges will stretch more than pieces cut on the straight of grain, so treat them gently. When I'm just sewing one block like this, I will often set up my little ironing board right next to my sewing machine so I don't have to get up and walk away from the sewing machine to iron. You want to press towards the corner or to the medium fabric and away from the dark. No need to worry about the little triangles that hang off the edges quite yet. We'll trim those all at the end at the same time. Now it's time to add the medium triangle to the other side of the dark triangle. Just like when you attach the first triangle, you want to line up the corner and the 2 sides and not worry about the little triangle piece that hangs off at the top of the unit. I like making the flying geese units with this method because it's very accurate, it saves time, and there's no wasted fabric. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of the Celebrating the States Block of the Month blocks. You want to press this one toward the medium fabric or the corner and make sure it's nice and flat. Once pressed, these units should measure 3.5 by 6.5. I use this opportunity to cut off the little triangles that hang over the edge and make sure they're measuring perfectly. Once trimmed, it's time to add your rectangle pieces to the flying geese units. You're going to want to make sure that you're sewing it so that the point of the flying geese is pointing towards the rectangle. To keep a nice point at the top of the flying geese units, sew it with the background fabric on the bottom so you can see where you're sewing. Once these are all sewn together, it's time to press, and you want to press toward the background fabric. Only 3 seams left and the Louisiana block is done. Make 2 matching half block units. Piece them together to form a pinwheel in the center. In the corner where the pinwheels meet, The seams should nest together to make it easier to line up. I made this block the traditional way with a dark pinwheel and light background. I think it could be fun to switch up the values and have a light pinwheel with a dark background. It would be fun to make a whole quilt using this block and just switch up the values in all the different blocks to see how they look. It would be a great way to use up scraps. Press both of these units the same way so they look identical. When you press them both the same way, when you flip the one around to sew it to the other one, at the end you will have a place to nest those seams together, and then the points in the center will match up perfectly. Sew the last seam with those seams nested in the center, and you're done. I like to put a pin in this center seam just to keep it from shifting as I'm sewing it together. Once it's pressed, this block should measure 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches. For the last pressing, you can either press the seam to one side, or if you prefer to have a little less bulk, you can press the seam open. Thank you for watching Block 5 of our Celebrating the States Block of the Month. Come back next month for Block 6. We hope you'll hit that like button, make a comment, share with your quilting friends, and most importantly, subscribe to stay up to date with all the fun stuff going on at the Quilted Forest. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting!